From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you preparing? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
All arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians, watch Ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 4 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned.
More than gold. champions and see the area. Everybody else in the area. And see the area. Let's go there. The champions and see the area. Everybody else in the area. And see the area. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. Champions say hali, 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 champions say hali. Over and over again we see, the touch of your greatness, Lord, in us. Whoa. Come join me, sing now. Let's celebrate together. Come join me, praise now. Let's jubilate together. The champions and see the area. Everybody else in the area. And see the area. Let's go there. The champions and see the area. Everybody else in the area. And see the area. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions.
Greetings and good evening to the people of Ambazonia, especially the people at home front, and greetings to the entire televiewers of ABC Amba TV. On our program today, Ethics for a Developing Ambazonia. I want to thank all of you who have tuned in again. I want to remind you that our ethics program is back on the air for the year 2023, and we have a lot in our package for you. 21 gun salutes to all the people at home front who are standing the gap, defending the homeland, and making sure that what we intend for our land shall be for our people. Thank you very much for coming. And before I go ahead to make some introductions of what we have today for you, I just want to call our resource person who is in the house while waiting for the second person to say a word of greetings to all of you. And when that is done, then we will dive into the subject matter, which is a continuation of what we started last week when we bounced back with our program on ethics. We are picking up a particular topic, and today is the second episode of that particular topic. So by so, I will say welcome to the program, Barrister, and the microphone is yours. Barrister team, are you there? Okay, it appears Barrister team is frozen while we try to relocate him in our technical room and bring him into the studios. I will just want to let the Ambazonian people know that the Ethics Commission has come back on the air, and all the Ambazonians that are abroad and in diaspora, we mean to say, are actually advised and encouraged to get seated and listen to some of the teachings and updates of what Ambazonia is going to be. Even at this time of turmoil, we don't want to sit down and fold our hands and suddenly wake up as if in a dream or from a sleep to begin to think and ponder what we should do when it comes to some certain actions and to some certain things that we're supposed to do in preparation for our homeland. We want to let the Ambazonians and the international community know that the Ambazonian people are very prepared to get into their land and govern the land as it's supposed to be. And that's why we are talking on ethics for a developing and emerging Ambazonia. Ethics for an emerging Ambazonia. I don't know, is Barrister Tim ready? Technician or technical team, I think he is not yet ready. Can somebody send a message to him? He may go out and come back into the studios. Meanwhile, today, the case studies of unethical issues plaguing Ambazonia, and some of these unethical issues that are plaguing Ambazonia is the subject matter of land grabbing. And we spoke extensively last week, giving the differences and talking about the ownership of the land and the grabbing communities or individuals or companies that are grabbing the land that was given to God for the Ambazonian people, and some very strange people through miscalculated, mischievous, and dubious ways came in to pick up the lands. We heard Barrister John Fruso expatiate on the meaning of that land, and we heard Barrister Biseha greatly talked about the CDC lands that belong to the CDC, which actually was land given by the Bakweri people, especially for the Commonwealth Development Corporation, Commonwealth Development Corporation, when they called it CDC. And when the dubious La République Cameroon took it over, they called it Cameroon Development Corporation. The CDC still remained, which was the name that the British were using. Some of the land was used for cash crops and some were used for food crops, for local consumption. Until today, the land is still there, and some of the grabbing of this land by individuals, especially the intruders in our land, is still going on. But we are getting ready and making preparations for the Ambazonian people, who are the owners of the land, not to doubt again tomorrow who owns the land, but to know their rights upon the land. And that's why we are coming in today with a land grabbing episode 2. Like I told you last week, it was well defined by Barrister Besiha and Barrister John Frunso. And while we get this musical pause, we'll get ready to get our the resource person come in, and we push on. Let's just get this musical pause. I will be right back.
The champions and senior, everybody and senior, and senior, let's go there. The champions and senior, everybody and senior, and senior, we are champions. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. Champions say hallelujah, champions say hallelujah, champions say hallelujah, champions say
champions say hallelujah. Over and over again we see, the touch of your greatness, Lord, in us. Whoa. Come join me, sing now. Let's celebrate together. Come join me, praise now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, in our episode 2 of land grabbing, which is the topic of today, we shall be looking at the circumvention in land grabbing. That means, that big grammar simply means that we shall be looking for means or the action of overcoming this land grabbing problem and difficulties. So we will be looking into that, and we want to look into what must not be done to violate the rules of getting the land in a proper way. Then we'll be looking at the status of Pan John Litumbe concerning the Bakore land claims. Yeah, one of our resource persons will be giving to us that particular episode and documentary. And then we will cross over to the Department of Economy and Investments vision to prevent such unethical activities in a free Ambazonia when we get over there. As we are getting ready to get over there, we'll make sure that this is prevented and nobody should get in and grab a land that he has no right to grab that land. So we are going to be examining some of these things and giving to the Ambazonian people that the land which God gave to them is their land, and no stranger or foreigner should just bomb into the land and do whatever he has to do. Of course, the land is given to us so that our economy and well-being should be taken out from the land. Remember, we are presently doing economic sabotage against La République du Cameroon. And the government has declared that no cash crops leave Ambazonia to La République. Neither do we need anything from them. So the borders are closed for those who are doing economic transaction within La République of Cameroon and Ambazonia until we are settled. Our land, which is greatly producing economy support for La République du Cameroon, has been stopped for now. And this is just the beginning, because we are getting back to our land, which is a land of laws, meaning rules and regulations. And nobody can circumvent these laws, can stop these laws, can go against these laws. So we are looking for and preparing ourselves for getting the Ambazonian people know that they own the land, and of course they will use it judiciously according to the laws of the territory of Ambazonia. And on our page today, like I earlier said, The Secretary of State for Economy and Development in Ambazonia will be coming in to share some insights with us, and that will be investments vision that we have as Ambazonia in a free land. But for now, we are still 1 foot into getting into our land to be free, but we will not keep quiet or tighten our lips or stop teaching our people to acquaint themselves with these rules. And the Department of Economy and Investment will actually go ahead and we'll see what we can do. And so, while waiting for the guest that we have for today, I just want us to listen to this. Last year, Ethics for an Emerging Ambazonia focused on ethics awareness. And this year, we will be spotlighting on ethical issues like I've just mentioned, plaguing Ambazonia at home and abroad. And we want to go with a deep tone that says, see something, say something. Today we will continue with the land grabbing because it is the most outrageous weapon amongst La République du Cameroon's annihilation arsenals that they have planned against the Ambazonian people. And as we examine some of the weapons that they have used, especially in this land grabbing, some of you who are at home, you already know what is going on. They have destroyed some of the crops and they have grabbed the land, distributed it not to Ambazonian people, but to their terrorist groups and members of their clan to completely inhabit and take over Ambazonia. And that's why they are killing with impunity and making sure that they take out anybody who is of reasonable age in Ambazonia and then take over their land and hand it over to the strangers. But I want to sound a warning here and let the Ambazonian people know, and even those strangers that the land is being grabbed and given to them, that we always say, and it is true, 99 days for the thief and 1 day for the master. So it is going to happen. So today, as we look into these particular arsenals, the more Ambazonians talk about unethical issues now, the better for our chances and for a short transition period, which will be post-recognition. Now, after the recognition, we will not have a lot of time to be spending again to teach you and unteach what La République has been doing over the past 60 years. That's why even during this time, we are able to bring to you what we are bringing to you now. Now, applied knowledge is very powerful. When you apply the knowledge you have, it is very, very powerful. And so that has been the short talk that we have for you today. And we are, of course, as I've announced, we will be looking at the status of the Bakore land claim, and of course the Department of Economy and Investment vision for our land will be there. And then from there, we will get into question and answer if you have any. Well, we still have a technical problem over there with our resource persons. We want to resort to a musical break, and we will be right back.
Champions and senior, everybody and senior, and senior, let's go there. The champions and senior, everybody and senior, and senior, we are champions. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. Champions say hallelujah, 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 champions say hallelujah. Over and over again we see.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm in.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Our resource person is right here in the house, and we will hand over the microphone to him to greet our people and then go ahead. He already knows the subject matter which he has to explain to us today. This is the part 2 of what he did to us last week. So over to you, sir. Welcome to the house, barrister, and the microphone is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry for the glitch. Your sound.
No, it's okay. I'm getting you.
Okay, I was saying that I'm sorry for the glitch. You know, this
Yeah, it's okay.
apps, they don't work all the time. So, but anyway, back we're here. Last week we dealt with land, the land grab, and we emphasized a lot on the CDC land grab, why the CDC and how it all came about. Today again, we're going to deal and explain more about the CDC in particular and the land grab. I had explained, and let me repeat again, that when the Germans came, they settled essentially in Fako and mostly on the slopes of Mount Cameroon because they were farmers, essentially. In fact, remember that was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. They were looking for crops to replenish their German industries. And so they got land from the barbarians, probably just seized the land. And when they did that, because they're white people, they went to Germany. Each of them registered their parcel of land, the German land register. That was where the government was not government in Boya. And so those lands were titled to them. Then the war came, 1915, the Second War ended in 1945. And all the Germans left, and their property had to fall back to the British. And the idea then was what to do with this land. So it was decided in 1947 to create a Commonwealth Corporation, a corporation that will be exploited for the purpose, for the development of the people of the land, not necessarily Backward land, of the entity called UA administered Southern Cameroon, which is today called Ambazonia. Later on became British Southern Cameroon, became West Cameroon. Today we call it Ambazonia. And so fast forward, as far as the land is concerned, in 1974, President Ahidjo created the first land ordinance. It was an ordinance, not a law. Ordinance number 741 of 6th July 1974, which purported to regulate land in the whole country. And in Article 2E of that land ordinance, private lands were identified there to include, among other things, lands registered in the Grundbuch. The Grundbuch was the German land register. And so those were considered to be private lands. What were private lands? Private lands included lands over which you had title, not just customary land, you had title, certificates of occupancy, letters of lease. This would be private property. So these lands were considered to be private. The lands on which the CDC was established, parts of the land on which the CDC was established. Remember that 1974 now, the CDC had become so large. It was no longer the thing of just Fako. It has expanded to Mokonje, to Ndu, to many other places. But the original land that was used to start the CDC was the Grundbuch, the land registered in the Grundbuch, the land taken from the Bakwarians on the mountain slopes of Mount Fako by the Germans. And so in 1974, these were classified as private land. The question you want to ask is, private lands to who? Who owned that land privately? The only person who could lay claim to it as their private land were the backward natives from which the land had been taken. And so they considered that to be their private land. Even though the CDC was there, they did not quarrel with that because the CDC was being exploited for the purpose of the public use. They established schools, they established, for example, universities. Money gotten from there were used to create health centers and schools. So that was no problem. That was the common wealth of the people. But in 1994, this is what happened then. In 1994, Mr. Paul Biya issued a decree that they intended to privatize private lands, to privatize the CDC, amongst other corporations. So if they privatized it and you bought it, it became your private property. It's no longer going to be used for the good of the country or of the community. And so the Bakwarians said, now, if you have to privatize this land, then we must be compensated because somebody is taking our property. That was our private property, even defined by government. And so they constituted what they call the BRCC, the Bakwari Lands Commission Committee. It was essentially headed by late Mola Njoli Tumbe. And they fought on to have those rights recognized. They went to the United Nations Human Rights Commission. They went to the African Human Rights Commission in Banjul and established a case for compensation of that land or for land to be returned to them instead of being privatized to private individuals. And so the government of Cameroon, they sued the government of Cameroon. The government of Cameroon came to Banjul, to the African Union Commission, and raised all objections, but they failed. They agreed that the land was private. It belonged to the natives of the Bakwari natives. That was what even the government considered. But as a matter of procedure, The African Union Commission on Human Rights does not intervene in the matter until the complainant has exhausted all the local remedies found in that country, because they deal with different countries. And so when they got there, when they raised the issue, yes, the land is yours, you are suing us here, but you didn't exhaust the local remedies in Cameroon. What would the local remedies be? The courts, the dues, and so on and so forth. And so the Backward Lands Commission, they had a lawyer who lives in Dallas there. But said, no, in Cameroon, the judiciary is under the control of the government. So no matter where we took our case, we're going to, because government has control over it. But the African Union Commission did not buy that idea. They say, look, that does not mean the fact that you will lose does not mean that you have lost. You have not yet tried. It was established that you should go and try there, fail there, and come here. So we cannot proceed until you go and follow the procedure, exhaust local remedies in Cameroon. And if you have no solution, that's when you can come back. When that happened, for the time being, that was the end of the matter. When they say, yes, thank you, court, that's exactly what I want. We can find a solution to this problem. And today, coming to the land grab, we have essentially in FACO. And what is happening is the CDC, through the government, purports to surrender some of the CDC lands to the natives, to the Backwarians. But this will happen in 1887 to 1906. These people are all dead. But in order to return the land to the natives, the administration would have to create chiefdoms, create chiefs to rule over those places that did not even exist. If they existed, they are extinct. They no longer exist. But the administration, as of today, will create a chief in FACO, mostly Boya, Victoria, and Tico, and say, okay, we are giving you 20 acres of CDC land. Yes, you the single man who have created a chief, that's for your village. But since you have no village, if we give you 20 acres, for example, we can take 10 for ourselves and then let you 10 and then sell it. Why they take 10, they portion out and sell it to people that they want and walk away with the money. They say it to their brothers, they say it to whoever comes there. The person does what he or she wants there, be it a house, a hotel, a school, whatever they want. And they walk away. And that has continued. The land grab has continued. You find that there's this dispute over chieftaincy or over FACO because of the administrators, the dues. This duo creates his own chief. Does what he wants with the money and the land. He gets transferred. The other one comes in and does the same thing. It's the same land grab. Trying to grab land for money. And I explained that it was so recurrent in FACO because the value of land in FACO is very, very high. That was the first phase of it. That was the land grab administratively. Since today we're dealing with the land grab of the CDC, I think that's where we should deal. I also explained that there was a second arm of the land grab. Because when the administration came, whatever administration was there, whether that of Fonchai, that of Ndele, that of the colonial master, they decided to build offices. All those offices that are there today, that were built then and they are being built today, stand on people's property. Those lands were owned by some farmers, by some chiefs. They were farming there. But they took them for public utility and built schools there, build hospitals, build offices for the common use of everybody. And they did, but they did not, and they foresaw that in future the administration will grow. So they took more than what they had, what they needed at the time. There was what they call government reserve land, hoping that tomorrow, when the administration gets bigger, there will be bigger offices. There was that land. They also created layouts from people's plots, just for purpose of land grab. The administrators of today come in, those lands that were reserved for future administrative structures have been partitioned out into plots and sold to private individuals. The same thing happened in Bamenda. It happened in Boya. You used to have the GRA, government residential areas. And so that is a classic example of land grab, which is all over Cameroon, not just in Ambazonia. We are just a sample. Those of us who follow news in Cameroon, for example, you find all this fighting over land in Douala, AB claiming that I have title over this. They really have titles. You come there, you have your title, a deal comes in. I want to be a hotel, I can't see the deal, I give him money. He gives me another title over the same piece of land. That's why you find these fights in Douala, in Yaoundé, everywhere. In summary, what does it mean? It is just a symbol of overreach of the administration. What shall we do as Ambazonians to stop such overreach? The overreach in administrative powers is replayed all over Cameroon. Why? Because of the over-centralized nature of the country. For example, if you go to, let me say Bamenda, you find off station, you find a governor, is appointed by the president. You find a prefect, is appointed by the same president. You find a sous-prefect, is appointed by the same president. You find what they call city mayor, or whatever thing they call it. They're all appointed by the prefect. There's no order that the governor will give instructions to the prefect, or the prefect will give instructions to the sous-prefect. So they all operate where they want, and where they come to areas where there's fortune, like Fako, where there's a lot of land, where the land has more value, they overstretch this power. And I went further to add that there's land grab also customarily, which when we get to Ambazonia, we should be dealing not just with land grab, we should be dealing with land problems. And I gave the example that look, what we have as inter-tribal ethnic wars, most of them are coming from land grab. One community wants to grab the land of the other. And I gave the example of Dampulo. Dampulo, let us start with Fako. Dampulo acquired Toleti as an estate growing tea. But Toleti today is no longer growing tea. It is now in the middle of town. And so where the tea used to grow, it surely becomes plots. He portions it out, takes his money. He cannot get into a Bakure chief or whoever in compensation. You go to his northwest, for example, in Kambe, precisely. Dampulo is a businessman, but he's also a rancher. He raises cows that go grazing everywhere in the world. We need his cow meat to eat, just like we need sweet potatoes, Irish potato to eat. Why is he grabbing people's land to feed his cows? It is simply because he needs more land to feed his 1,000 cows, whatever it is. Must that be the thing? No. I gave the example that look, in 2022, 23, we cannot have that. We live in the developed world. We see farmers here over Europe who are rearing cattle, 1,000 cattle, 5,000 on a small acre of land, and feeding them with modernized grass. They feed. They don't need to go 10,000 miles to eat. So when we get over there, we can regulate all these things. As far as land grabs is concerned, we do legislation. What form it would take, I'm not sure. It will be Parliament to do it. But those are the problems that deal with land grabs. What is the status? Someone they wrote there on my slot this morning of the BLCC, the Bakoilan committee that was established. What is the status? Does it still exist? It still exists. But does it have any value of now? Of course not. I'm not sure they have any much value anymore. Because the subject matter for which they were creating that thing is almost all dissipated. It's gone. There's no more Bakwai land to fight for because the administrators have partitioned it out to people in the style of the government. And so you have no more substance to fight about. You want to go and fight a piece of land soil in Boya, around the University of Boya. The University of Boya was CDC bananas. Somebody has bought there and built his or her hotel. You're going to start from where? And so that is where we are. I also gave a classic example of land grabs in Victoria with Musa Yaya Safaraki. In the 1970s, when Musa Yaya Safaraki, when they rediscovered oil and they were going to be a refinery in Limbe, this guy, an Hausa man, came there and acquired almost all the land around there. He's dead. When they built the refinery, the status of the land changed. His descendants have sold it, taken money. How are you going to fight them? When you go there with people building standing, or you are going to fight who? And so that is a classic example of land grab, because this man from Garawa, he had never been to Limbe. He had never lived there. How did he get title over land? Or rather, his political influence. He was the Speaker of the National Assembly. And so he grabs that thing, sells it out to his people, gives them money, do whatever he wants to do with it. And that's the end of it. So that's the problem of land grabs in Ambazonia in particular, and southern Cameroon as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister, for that explanation. Now, from the foreign authorities you have named, the sous-prefet, the prefect, the DO, the whatever name they call themselves, where is the position of the chief or the autochthones of the land? What is their position when the government so-called comes in to grab that land, especially for a corporation like the CDC? And at the end of the day, when it is privatized, land that was belonging to the corporation which they have not yet developed, does the individual who buys over the property owns plus that land, or it goes back to the owners of the land? Did you get me?
I got you part. But this is the point. By the 1974 ordinance, land ownership, take note, land ownership by the 1974 law, it is an ordinance. But because Cameroon Constitution says that the president can take ordinances and decrees that have the force of law, it is considered law. That 1974 ordinance made land ownership, as far as you are concerned, all land in that country, called Cameroon in general, including us, is owned by the government. What your rights are to the land, your grandfather, my grandfather, those people you are talking about, customary communities, they have the right of usage. They only use the land. Unless the land on which you are sitting, you are referring to, is classified under Article 2 of the ordinance as private property. That's the only land that is private. Any other land is government owned and we have the right to usage. And if you permit me, I will just read all the lands that are private, the only lands that are private. Otherwise, any other land is national, is government owned. The following lands shall be private property. A, registered lands. You must have registered your land by 1974. Freehold land. That was granted you freehold by the government. Lands acquired under the transcription system. These were all British systems. Lands covered by the final concession. If the state considered a piece of land to you to be a school, that is private land as of 1974. And then E, lands entered in the ground bunch. That's the CDC land I was referring to. Otherwise, any other land you find there is called national land. If it is in your village, I want to own it. If you want to become a private land, you have to apply and get a land title. In West Cameroon, we had certificates of occupancy, which were given by the government. There was just a certificate there, you're occupying that place. He didn't say it was yours. It was still government land. But he gave you a certificate that you are occupying it. The 1974 law says registered title. Now you have full title to it, like your house. But to get it, you have to go through a procedure. If it is national land, you have to go through a procedure. If you bought a plot over that land in Bafoot, in Bali, you bought a plot, a building plot. You see, if the people are smart, and I'm sure they are, what they sell you, so I'm giving you 30 by 30, 20 by 20 meters. The sale of my crops, cocoa, plantains, whatever thing he has there. So you sell you all the crops. The land itself it belongs to the government. So you take that
Yeah.
procedure and you get title over it, it becomes yours. Otherwise, your right of usage is only for you to use the thing.
Yeah,
And
barrister.
it might be interesting for us to know, especially those of us who come from the grass field, the northern zone, or the whole northern zone. You see, because we have very rich palaces. The palace at the front of Mancon, the front of Bafut, all those ballet, front of so all those palaces were classified as government property for good reason. Because they were protected for good reason, so that the chief, the occupant of that palace at the time, could not go and do what happened to the Afuakom. Could not carry it there, just give it out and take money. Because they contain the national treasures, they were protected by the government. If a rascal chief came there, succeeded his father, and saw those things standing there, which could bring a lot of money, he was prohibited from just leasing out the stuff and taking money from people, because that is government property. It is protected by the government. Things like that, yes.
Okay. Before the 1974 law, when Ambazonia, southern Cameroons, was on their own, after they had come out from Nigeria, what was the situation of the land like? In, for example, I heard you quoted, which I agree, that even when your father gives you a piece of land that was inherited from his father's father, when these fellows had not yet come, you still have to go and make a land certificate in order to own it today. But then, before then, I don't know if you have an idea of how it was wrong before these people came in with their laws and making it to be complex the way it is today.
This is what happened. You see, in West Cameroon, in Southern Cameroon, like if you see in this law, you see private lands are lands that people had certificates of occupancy. It is written in English. A certificate of
But was it
occupancy
like
did not
that in the southern Cameroons?
That's what I'm trying to explain. Certificates of
Oh, okay,
occupancy were only in West Cameroon. You don't know East Cameroon.
okay.
The government gave you a certificate of occupancy that you were occupying that land, whatever thing you were doing there. So it was a certificate of occupancy. But before you understand what it is, you must understand that the British rule, the British administration, they dealt with indirect rule. They did not leave Lagos or wherever or were to come down to Manfred, to go down to Mkambe. No, it was indirect rule. While they were in Boya, or when they were still in Lagos, or whether Unugu, their custodians, the representative of the government, be it Lagos or be in Boya, was the chief, because it was indirect rule. Chief, the chief people knew the land which you were farming. So they were not giving titles. They could give you a piece of land. For example, if take the Kalemusha, when they build a college, Bale, Sase, all those colleges, they did not have land title over it. The piece of land was ceded to them by the community where they build ballet or Sacred Heart or Sase or any college. So they had certificate that they were occupying that place for purpose of a school. If the government came to put a hospital, they went to the chief We want to bring a hospital here, which is the best place to put it. We want to put a school here. The chiefs will go and say, well, this school will be attended by 5 different villages. We look for location and say, this is suitable for us. The government accepted it. That is part of the indirect rule. But they came to this idea of privatizing the land, not because they wanted to protect everybody. No, there was monetary interest. Because, for example, if they were, let me say they wanted to construct the ring road, that resurvey it. If the ring road, the new ring road passes through your compound, your house has to go. You have to be compensated. If that your compound has a land title, the price for your compensation is different. If you don't have a land title over it, you only have your mud house or whatever thing you have there, your plantains, your cocoyams, they will still pay. But they will pay you for the crops destroyed. A person who has been, whose 100 stems of plantains have been destroyed will get more than one who has only 4. But if it's a land title, they tell you the piece of land on this, they evaluate it. There's a price fixed for it. A square meter of registered land in Santa, which was so much. A price of a registered land or title land in Boya is what so much. So if you pass it through your place and they take your whole compound, they measure it, they pay you the land and your house. So that's the great difference. Government always try to assert control over its territorial land. Whichever government, the 4 corners that constitute that territory, governments try to exert some control. Otherwise, what makes the people of Bimbia, the people of West Coast, not come out and say this on another thing, this oil is our oil, it is coming out of our soil. Rightfully, it is coming out of their soil. But the government, because there's a government, they say, well, this is a national product. What you can get because it's coming out of your soil, it has extra benefits. Maybe we'll recruit some of your people. Maybe we'll come to the Limbe Council and they pay loyalties to them, which they build roads, which they build water, and everybody there enjoys. So the assertion of government over land is not new. It is the exploitation, the abuse of that as claimed by the government, which is called land grab.
Okay.
Because if properly used, it will not hurt anybody. I'm not sure how many of us listening here know Moyuka very, very well. If you go to Moyuka, there was a CDC there. It is still there. If you see where the hospital is, for example, it is called New Layout. That was a CDC plantation. When it became too near the town, they decided to make that part of the town. But the government, the DO did not do it. The government did not do it. They simply turned it over to the council, who plotted it out and gave it to people. Whatever money they paid went to the council for the development of the area. Again, if you go there, you see as you drive from Boya, you see to the left, a police station standing in the CDC plantation. They just took that rubber plantation and planted a district office there, a police office. Opposite is the council office. These are all plantations. Nobody is quarreling with that because the police office, the council office, they are for the use of the people, not individuals. A mayor comes and goes, a chief of police comes and goes, a DO comes and goes, the office remains. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Barrister. I want to find out, Barrister, you have been in different parts of the world, and I'm sure you know a bit about, especially in America where you are, about the land situation. I don't know whether it is true. You did mention it. So when somebody has a piece of land and there is oil in that land, is that oil owned by the government or the person who has a certificate of occupancy of that land?
No, the 1974 ordinance, as well as most modern legislations, all minerals in the subsoil, oil, gold, silver, whatever thing you can get out of the soil, minerals, they belong to the state. The state can give you a license to exploit it. They will not say, well, this gold mine is in your father's land. You own it now. It belongs to the state. But when they exploit it, the man who is really affected has some benefit more than the other people. For example, in America right now, we've been talking about the Alaska pipeline, which was supposed to transport oil from Canada through Alaska to different parts of the United States. That pipeline will pass through somebody's place. They cannot prevent the oil, the pipeline from passing, but they benefit. They pay them for making that pipe because that pipeline affects them daily. Yes, I will buy the oil cheaper 10,000 miles away at the expense of you over which property it passed. Again, let us go to Cameroon. Who remembers what they call in Cameroon the Kribi Chad pipeline, which is supposed to pump oil from Chad to Kribi? It passed over people's land. The government promised to pay them. They never paid. They promised to employ some of them doing the labor. They never did. It is the dishonesty of the government. Because if they say, okay, that gold mine is under your chair, what will you do with it? Can you dig gold with your fingers? You have to be licensed to somebody to do it. You don't have the power to license people to go and dig gold. Companies which come to dig gold, like in South Africa where it was so common, pay duties to the state. They are licensed when they verify other things that go with mining. So, in summary, minerals under the subsoil in Cameroon all belong to the state. But again, the problem is the abuse of the state of that right. I had occasion to talk here. Who could have imagined that the oil which is being purportedly refined in Limbe is coming from Ndian? And as of today, Ndian does not even have a road, just 60 kilometers, that's 45 miles to Kumba. Where are all these royalties going to? What does it cost to give Ndian just a road? The oil is coming from their subsoil. They cannot drink the oil, but it's bringing a lot of money. Who can explain? That is CDC, which is the second largest employer in Cameroon. Yeah, they never had any private employer like that. It has a very big budget. They do a lot of business around the world. But they pay their taxes to Limbe. If all the taxes that the CDC pays were going to Victoria, Victoria should have more money to put out all the electricity in that town water for nothing. But today, you don't even have a trash collection company in Victoria. While Limbe, it's the dishonesty of the government. The headquarters of the CDC is in Bota, Victoria. But most of their business, their rubber, is exported. So what did they do? They created a shipping, a marketing department in Douala Port. Because in Douala, so to show that it is based in Douala.
And there's a port in Limbe.
The whole business in Limbe. If you have been to Limbe, you see the Bota head office of the CDC, that big store building there. But they have a shipping office in Douala. That would justify the payment of taxes to the Douala Council, not to the Limbe Council, because it's being shipped from Douala. So it's just the dishonesty of a wicked government. I wonder if that answers.
Thank you, Barrister. Our time is up,
It's running out.
and like you, in your closing remarks, I want to ask this question. What is Ambazonia intending to do, the government of Ambazonia, when we step foot into our land? What are they intending to do as far as this land issue is concerned? Can you give us a briefing in your closing remarks? Thank you very much.
Honestly, I cannot answer that question because I don't know what the government will do. I don't know what government will get there. But if you were to ask my opinion, when we set foot in Boya. How shall we address these land issues? I would suggest a comprehensive land law that will deal with the right of ownership, the right of exploitation, and the right to benefit. That law will not concentrate all the power or all the powers on administratively appointed officials. It will concentrate the authorities to Parliament, and Parliament should really have some work to do. Not what we have in Cameroon. I don't know how many of us know that what they call Parliament in Yaoundé there, it has never originated any law in their lives. One. It sits 60 days in a year. So if you're having all these problems in Campbell or Womb or wherever, you cannot ask your parliamentarian because you cannot initiate anything. So if we were to get back to Boya, I would say we have to deal with the land, but the comprehensive dealing with the land must pass through Parliament. Why Parliament? Because in Parliament you have a representative of every community there. They know what land is in the village. They know what land is in town. So when they come out with the comprehensive solution, I'm sure a lot will rest with the councils, the counties. A lot would. They cannot, for example, the council can say, okay, we're breaking into your fence to exploit gold or to dig out coal. Now, the council of that place, be it Bafford Council, Santa Council, whatever, must have a say. You dig the gold here, you must put water for people to drink, and the supervisor and be sure that it's water. You dig the gold here, a percentage is 10% or whatever, must be enforced. So we'll deal with the land law in that way, essentially taking away the power to do or undo from the administrators, who are no other than the president. He appoints everybody takes orders from him, directly or indirectly, but just directly, because the decree does not say that the superprefect should take order from the prefect, or the prefect should take from the governor. No, you are just appointing your own right. I do what you like, which is what must be avoided in Ambazonia as far as land is concerned. I wonder if that is clear enough. I hope
Very clear.
we can give this, if we are still there, we'll give this advice.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Ladies and gentlemen, people of Ambazonia, this is where we end this program today. Don't miss any of these episodes, and note that Ambazonia is going back to what was working for the good of the people. And because of that, we'll end up here. Thank you very much.
From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you prepared? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
All arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians watch ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 4 p.m. Amber time.
Exclusively on ABC Amber TV. Stay tuned.